Okay, let's continue. I'm so sorry. Let's continue our conversation on Stoicism with Seneca's Moral Letters. This is a somewhat long letter, and yet I want to read it to you almost in its entirety. Letter 13, from Seneca to Lucilius. Greetings. You have plenty of spirit, I know. Even before you began to equip yourself with the teachings that bring health and conquer adversity, you felt that you were doing quite well against fortune, and all the more after you came to grips with it and tested your strength. One can never be sure of one's strength until numerous difficulties have appeared on every side, or indeed until the very moment when they have come quite close. That is the way for the true mind to prove itself, the mind that yields to no judgment but its own. Fortune tests the spirit's mettle. A boxer who has never suffered a beating cannot bring bold spirits to the match. It is the one who has seen his own blood, who has heard his teeth crunch under the fist, who has lost his footing and found himself spread eagle beneath his opponent. The one who, though forced to yield, has never yielded in spirit, who after falling rises fiercer every time. That is the one who goes to the contest with vigorous hope. Pursuing the analogy, just so has fortune often had the upper hand with you, and yet you have never surrendered. You have jumped up and stood still more boldly on your feet. For courage increases when it meets with a challenge. All the same, accept from me, if you will, some few words to help you strengthen your defenses. More things frighten us, Lucilius, than really affect us, and we are more often afflicted in thought than in fact. I mean this not in a Stoic sense, but in a less exalted way. It is, of course, our doctrine that all those things that wring sighs and groans from people are minor matters and not worth thinking about. But let's skip those great words, although, by all the gods, they are true. My advice to you is this, rather. Don't be miserable before it is time. Those things you fear, as if they were impending, may never happen. Certainly they have not happened yet. Some things, then, torment us more than they should, some sooner than they should, and some torment us that should not do so at all. Either we add to our pain, or we make it up and we get ahead of it. We are still at odds on that first question, and the case is contested, so let's put it off for the moment. Something I call minor will be quite serious in your estimation. I am well aware that some people laugh as they are beaten with whips, while others groan when merely slapped. We will investigate later on whether such things have power through their own strength or through our weakness. What I'm asking of you now is just this. Whenever those around you begin to convince you that you are unhappy, consider what you actually feel rather than what you hear them say. Consult your own endurance, and since you are the best judge of your own affairs, ask yourself, why is it that these people are commiserating with me? On what grounds do they shrink from me, fearing even to come in contact with me as though misfortune were contagious? Is there really anything bad in your condition, or is the reputation worse than the reality? Ask yourself, could it be that I am suffering and moaning for no reason? Am I making something bad that is not? How am I to know, you say, whether the causes of my anxiety are real or empty? Here is your measuring stick. We are tormented either by things past, or by things to come, or both. Concerning things present, it is easy to make a judgment. If your body is at liberty and healthy, if you are not in pain from any injury, then we can wait and see what is to come. Today is not an issue. Still, it is to come. First, find out whether there is firm evidence that trouble is on the way, for all too often we worry about what we merely suspect. Rumor plays tricks on us, rumor that brings down the battle, but brings down the individual even more. Yes, dear Lucilius, we are too quick to give way to opinion. We do not demand evidence of the things that frighten us, like the army that breaks camp because of a dust cloud kicked up by a herd of cattle, or like people who are terrified by some item of anonymous gossip. In a way, empty causes produce even more trepidation. Real dangers have an inherent limit. Anything that arises from uncertainty, though, is given over to conjecture and to unrestrained anxiety. Hence, our most pernicious, our most uncontrollable fears are the crazy ones. Our other fears are unreasonable. These are unreasoning. So let us look carefully at the facts. Some evil is probable for the future. It is not proven right off. How many unexpected things have come to pass? How many of our expectations never happen at all? Even if it is to come, what good does it do to anticipate your grief? You will grieve soon enough when it comes. In the meantime, allow yourself something better. What do you gain by that? Time. The rest of the letter is worth reading. It's a good letter, but I think this covers the gist of what Seneca is trying to say, and I find this a very interesting letter. This is, of course, one of the core tenets of Stoicism, and one that has come up in a number of the other videos. But I also think that this is a principle that we really have to remind ourselves of once in a while. This is the kind of principle that in the heat of battle, so to speak, we can forget about, even though it is in fact vital, crucial to Stoicism and Stoic practice. And that is the idea that it is not things themselves that upset us, but our thoughts about those things. And again, when those things are actually happening, it's easy to forget about this. It's very easy to say, oh, I love Stoicism, I try to be Stoic, when everything in your life is going very well. But it is at the hard times, the times when things are difficult, that you can really put your Stoicism into practice. And when things are difficult, I always think it is a good idea to stop and ask yourself, why at this point are things difficult? What is it that is making things hard for me? And it's not always easy. In fact, it's often hard. Some moments it's easier than other moments. But just generally speaking, things are typically hard because in my mind, we are doing one of two things, and Seneca mentions this too. Either we are ruminating about something bad that has happened in the past, or we are anticipating something that may be bad in the future. But the reality is that the thing that happened in the past has already happened and can therefore not be changed, and the things that may happen in the future have not yet happened, and therefore it's kind of pointless to really fear them, because you're not even sure whether they may be happening, because the future is in motion all the time. It changes, like it's not set in stone. Hence, the future, we don't know what that future is going to bring. And when you start to think in those terms of the things that upset me are not really the things, but are my thoughts about the things, then you will also bring to your recollection that you have control over your thoughts. You can control those thoughts. If something from the past is bothering you because you have done something in the past or something has happened to you in the past, you can no longer change that thing. You may be able to go up to someone and say sorry for something that has happened. Maybe they will say sorry, maybe they will not. That's not within your control. You saying sorry is, but them saying sorry is not. Something traumatic may have happened. Well, in the case of something traumatic, it's wise to use some therapy. Right? Go into therapy and discuss those things with a professional, because those things you typically cannot work through on your own. But I'm talking about smaller things, everyday things. And this happened and I got angry and it upsets me. And then she said something and it upset me. Whatever, something along those lines. But it has already happened. You can't go back to that thing. You can't undo it. It has happened. So when you are thinking about that and it keeps popping up in your mind, you have the ability to say, no, thank you, and then push that down. Well, maybe I shouldn't say push it down. Don't repress it. But again, I'm talking about everyday things, right? Everyday small frustrations, annoyances, nuisances, that kind of stuff. You can say, maybe instead of thinking about this unpleasant thing that happened in the past, again, I'm not speaking of traumatic things, I'm talking about just everyday things. Maybe instead of saying that, you could say, maybe I don't want to think about this. I'm going to think about something else. I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to practice a hobby that I like. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to do any of the things that I can do to distract myself from thinking about the thing from the past that right now is upsetting me. And the same way, when you're thinking about things that may be scary about the future, you can also stop yourself and say, I don't have to think about that. I could be thinking about something else. I could go for a walk, call a friend, do something that you like, etc. It's important. I find this very important, and this really is, to me, probably the most important thing that Stoicism has taught me. It's not the thing, but it's your thoughts about that thing that keep coming back, either from the past or into the future. But in both cases, you have a problem. You focus, you reset, you can control those thoughts. But it takes effort, it takes practice, and it takes a lot of determination. But with the combination of those three things, you can make that progress. You can learn to be more in control of the thoughts that you have. And that, I think, can be incredibly helpful. And that way, you're not obsessing over things from the past. You're not obsessing over things coming in from the future. You're here, now. You can't change the past. The future will happen. The more you worry about it, the less anything changes. It doesn't matter, right? You've just wasted a lot of mental resources, time, effort, emotion on things that you probably have no control over. Then why worry? And why let that affect you? All right. Again, this is a classic topic. It's one that we've discussed before, but I do think that this is a good one to remind ourselves of once in a while because it is so central to Stoicism. I hope this was useful. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you do if unpleasant thoughts kind of force themselves upon you. How do you distract yourself? What do you go and do? It's interesting to know, and I think it will be interesting for people to read in the comments. I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you again next week for more talk about Stoicism. Bye!